An all-star cast and a dramatic, slightly cursed Thanksgiving dinner? Well, let's talk the humans. Hey everyone, this is David Stark from Watch or Pass. I'm here to talk to you about The Humans, which is coming to theaters and Showtime on November 24th, 2021, right before Thanksgiving. And it makes sense that it's coming before Thanksgiving because this film is about a Thanksgiving dinner. Maybe not the wholesome Thanksgiving dinner you would normally expect from a film coming out around now, but it is definitely about a family and their Thanksgiving and some of the drama that comes with it. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the film, a few things I liked, a few things I didn't like. There won't be a lot of spoilers. I don't think I'm going to make this a spoiler review, but there will probably be some. So if you haven't seen the film, it's coming out November 24th, so you can check it out on your, hopefully you get a holiday. You can check it out on your Thanksgiving holiday and then come back and watch this. Or if you don't care about spoilers, just want to know what the film is about, we can keep going. So The Humans is an A24 release, and it has an all-star cast that gathers for a Thanksgiving meal. And during this Thanksgiving meal, there are wholesome moments, but there's also some drama and a few secrets that get dredged up. The film is based on a play, and you can definitely tell it has a play influence that it's from the fact that it all takes place in one apartment to some of the camera angles that make it look like you're looking in through a set, and some of the dialogue feels like something that would be in a play. It's kind of natural. Some of the shots show kind of what you would expect a play to have, where you've got someone on the lower level of this apartment and then someone on the upper level and they're talking. It does definitely evoke that play aspect, and I think that's generally good, although there are a few things I didn't love about this film. But overall, the hot take is I think it's an interesting film. There's a lot I did love. I loved the characters, the cinematography, and the writing. But the film's slow kind of pace and some of the sinister aspects that it introduced just didn't gel with me. I think it's ultimately a rental. I think if you watch it, you're not going to be disappointed, but you might be turned off by how slow it was. So I'm going to talk about things I loved about this film. The first is the cast. I mean, this is a really great cast. An interesting cast. Not really one that... The first thing I love about this film is the cast. This is a really great cast. It's a very interesting cast. Not really one I would have pegged, but I did love all of these actors. Richard Jenkins as the father was really great. Has Amy Schumer as one of the siblings in the film. He's got Beanie Feldstein as the other sibling. They're fun together, and some of the real world problems introduce some drama into the movie. And then Stephen Yeun as Beanie Feldman's boyfriend. And Stephen Yeun as Beanie Feldstein's boyfriend was an interesting character. It was actually a weird Steve Yeun character because he was a little quieter than I expected, and he was a little bit more timid, but he had some really fun aspects and he had some interesting one-liners and things like that. And he also provided, as the only outsider in this movie, he was kind of the new member of the family, I guess. He had some interesting perspectives on the interactions that were happening in the family and some of the dynamics that were going on. And then also June Squibb as the grandmother who has some health problems. Was an interesting one as well, although she didn't really get to showcase what she can do. She was a little bit more confined during the film. And Jayne Houdyshell as the mother was also an interesting character. She had some swings throughout her, like she would kind of go to a few extremes, and she also introduced some of the drama. So it was a fun, interesting cast, and everyone just kind of did a really good job. The second thing I loved is the cinematography. I think this was the most striking thing about this film and something that I really appreciated. It has a really interesting kind of, I guess, camera work. A lot of the scenes are filmed through like a doorway or through kind of like a window or looking at a doorway, but at an interesting angle. So you sometimes get kind of a more limited view of what's going on, or you see the whole scene, but you're viewing it from far away. It has a very kind of voyeuristic view. I don't know if that was intended to make it so that you were kind of looking into this family and kind of observing this family, or if it's maybe a callback to how the play was, maybe because it makes it feel like you are an audience member watching this unfold. I don't really know what it was, but it was very interesting. There were lots of camera angles and shots that I didn't expect. You have some that were maybe a little lower than you would normally shoot a film. You had some that were kind of out of focus, like it would be focusing on like a feather on the windowsill, and then the conversation and events would be happening behind that, but you couldn't see that because it was focused on that feather. You had a lot of scenes where it was through a doorway, like I said, so maybe you're only seeing a few of the characters, or you're seeing the family, but they're through this doorway. So maybe like, I don't know, 50%, 60% of the screen is taken up by a wall and you only get a little sliver in there. it was really interesting. It was fun to kind of watch. It made it feel a little bit more fresh, a little bit more unique, and it did give you this feeling that you were observing this family, that you weren't like an active participant, you were watching what was going on, which I thought was an interesting way to frame it. And the last thing I really loved is the writing. You definitely feel like this is a film that was converted into a play. The writing is pretty crisp, the dialogue is kind of free flowing. There are some really funny aspects too. There's some really funny lines that will make you laugh. And then there's also a good amount of drama that's introduced throughout. Um, and then the film also has some fun natural conversation. I mean, the crux of this film is a family at a Thanksgiving dinner, and that leads to some conversation that does actually feel pretty natural. You get some characters reminiscing about things, you get some characters talking about aspects of their life. And when the film kind of gets going in that respect, it's a lot of fun to watch, and it's a lot of fun to kind of follow how these characters are progressing. Things I didn't love. The film is a slow burn, and that's probably partly because it's a play, and so it has to kind of conform to how a play is put together. But the film itself, just it's a long film, and it definitely feels like it. It's a little less than 2 hours, about an hour 45. But it definitely feels that length at times, and it could be partly just because it's a lot of dialogue. It could be partly just because some of the scenes are pretty slow. I think some of the sinister aspects that they introduce a little bit later in the film do tend to slow it down as well. There are some scenes where characters kind of going into a dark room and you don't really know what's happening, and then maybe there'll be like a loud noise or something that just causes this to kind of drag out, especially those scenes, because those don't really contribute much to what I think is the crux of this film. But overall, it is a slower film, so just make sure you're in the right mindset when you do watch it, because if you're expecting something that's going to really kind of grab your interest, you're probably not going to get that. But if you're interested in like kind of watching and observing this family, then you might get something out of this film. So the second thing I didn't love are the sinister aspects, and this is where there will be a few spoilers, but I don't think they're going to be that intense, so just be warned. The film has a couple of sinister aspects. The first is the film highlights this apartment that they're in. This is the apartment that Beanie Feldstein and Yeun, this is their kind of new apartment, and the family's there to celebrate them getting this apartment and also have Thanksgiving there. And the film highlights some aspects of this apartment that are kind of run down. It's not a great apartment. I mean, it's a New York apartment. I'm sure anyone that's read any of those Facebook clickbait stories about New York apartments will recognize aspects of this apartment in there. But you have things like water damage, you've got things like leaks, you've got lights going in and out, you've got certain aspects of like the walls showing warping, and the apartment just kind of feels like it's crumbling around it. And the film will focus on some of these during some scenes, and I actually didn't mind that. I feel like that was the film and maybe the underlying play trying to showcase like that the apartment, like trying to have parallels between kind of the shaky foundation in the apartment and some of the disrepair that the apartment has fallen into with some of the things that have happened in this family. But there's a second kind of sinister aspect about this film as well, where you'll have characters who kind of go into dark rooms, and maybe there will be a loud sound or something, or they'll talk about these like strange dreams that they have, and then throughout you're kind of expecting some of these visions to come up. They don't ever actually do, but I do feel like the film was trying to introduce these sinister elements. I wasn't sure if it was doing it to maybe be symbolic of some of the emotions that were happening in the film. As the family goes through the night, there are some pretty dark revelations that occur. Nothing like too sinister, but there are some, depression. There's some aspects of depression. There's some aspects of unrest in the family that get introduced. And I wasn't sure if maybe the film then used these more sinister aspects to highlight those characters going through that type of a situation. But I think overall, it just didn't really do it for me. I was expecting it to, if it's going to introduce these like dark rooms, I was expecting something to actually happen. And if it's going to, and especially the scene at the end, it's a pretty long, drawn out process that just seems kind of unnecessary and also strange given what was happening before. So I didn't love those aspects. Again, I don't think that really detracts too much from the film. I think ultimately this film is a rent. It has a really great cast and some really interesting cinematography. So I think ultimately you'll enjoy it, but I don't think you need to like run out to theaters. If you have Showtime, You can stream it on Showtime if maybe you want to wait until it's available in another format if you don't have Showtime. But overall, I think it's something you should watch, just maybe not right now. So that's my review of The Humans, which is coming to theaters and Showtime on November 24th, 2021. If you liked this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.